in Iowa, corporate interests now control about 70% of the agricultural land in our state, which is, I understand, like 63 million acres. Well, their focus is return on investment. They don't think about it the way generations of farmers who had century farms, who had generation after generation of family living on the farm, and they thought about it in that way. I am preparing this ground for future generations. We will take what we need off of it today, but we need to build the quality of the soil and the land for the future. We can't degrade it. But as we see what's happening now with erosion, for instance, in Iowa, with almost monocropping as they look at corn, which is used in some cases as feedstock, but in many cases also as ethanol, which some would say is a renewable energy source, unlike oil or whatever. Well, it takes an awful lot of energy to produce ethanol because you have to make alcohol out of corn. And so you have to heat it and distill it. And not only is there a lot of energy that's used to do that, not only to plant the corn, raise the corn, harvest the corn, till it, in the interim, but again, that whole process and doing that year after year with the same crop begins to take some of the vital nutrients out of the ground. Well, what do you have to do? You have to add herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, fertilizers, nitrates into it to be able to sustain that growth. At the same time, we're eroding 4,000 pounds per acre per year off of our ground. That doesn't talk to a sustainable future. But again, 70% of that ground now is controlled and run and corporately managed for return on investment this year, not thinking about future generations. And so, we have to know that there's those interests that we have to transform and get them to understand that, well, their current corporate interests certainly are important to them, but what about that corporation or the interests and those jobs and those people and the people that they feed or provide energy to are going to need it generations from now. And if they have the long-term view of it, I believe that they will change to more sustainable practices that will build the soil, will not pollute the water, will leave us a future that is attainable, sustainable, and can provide a livable opportunity in our state, in our city, on this planet, that future generations will be thankful that we begin to switch away from a different thought. But sometimes, it's those generations of, as we said, indigenous people that have been here for thousands of years that have thought about those sorts of things and the way that they used to live and how they lived and how they sustained in the United States their herds of buffalo and how they would never over-harvest. They knew that they had to maintain a certain level of renewable life that helped sustain their way of living as well. And so they thought about future generations. We need to do that now.